This is a film about Dartmouth College. More specifically, this is a film about Dartmouth football. This is Ned Martin bringing you Dartmouth football highlights. In the last few years, it's been my pleasure to broadcast the Dartmouth games on over 40 stations, the second largest college football network in the nation. The Big Green has a great winning tradition in football, noted for its hard-hitting defense and an imaginative offense. Dartmouth is also noted for the tremendous spirit of its student body and alumni. The fans cheer when the Big Green team takes the field for the opening game, but few people can fully appreciate the tremendous amount of work, effort, and sacrifice that the players put into the preseason practice period. It's far more than just learning assignments. The perspiration pops out of each pore as players exert every ounce of energy in different exercises against a strength-building device. This gives them extra power and endurance in addition to strengthening the muscles. Halfback Bob Lundquist perfecting his running form while running against resistance. A look at those forearms, and you can tell where quarterback Bill Koenig gets the power to throw those 60-yard passes. Considerable time is spent on various types of drills that improve a player's quickness, agility, and reactions. Defensive linemen work to develop the strength in their forearms to ward off blockers. Offensive linemen work on their blocking form. Tackle Deke Olmsted works on pass protection blocking. You've got to hit, gather yourself, and hit again while staying on balance all the time. Defensive linemen must learn to deliver a blow, move laterally, then be ready to hit again. The emphasis is on conditioning during the early season practice. In a form of torture known as the 6-station drills, players drive themselves for a full minute doing a particular conditioning or reaction drill, and then, without a breather, sprint on to the next station. This, known to everyone as the grass drill. Such simple things as how to fall on a fumble are practiced. Offensive backs work on the techniques of ball carrying. How to cross over, how to pivot. Special drills are used to teach a back how to maintain his balance. Even such a thing as taking a squad picture requires organization. Sports Information Director Jack DeGange goes up in the crane with a cameraman to check on the best angle. The preseason practice period is climaxed with a practice game against an outside opponent. This year's game was against the very big and powerful Boston College Eagles. This game proved that Dartmouth was again going to have a good football team, and a courageous one. Trailing 15-0 in the second quarter, the Indians came back to win 21-15. With the preseason period now behind them, the Indian team is ready for the opening game. As happens before every home game, the freshman class builds a huge bonfire for the Friday night pep rally. And after the rally, students and their dates linger around the fire. The Big Green team opened this season against the University of New Hampshire. The UNH Wildcats had been a strong team in recent seasons. This year, they went on to lose only one other game as they tied for the championship in the Yankee Conference. On Dartmouth's third play of the game, Bill Koenig flips a short pass to Bob Malacher, who picks up 18 yards. The Indians' first score is set up when Captain Randy Wallach fights all the way to the 11-yard line after taking one of Koenig's passes. After taking a pitch out, Bob Lundquist goes in for the touchdown behind fullback Dave Boyle's block. At the start of the second quarter, Boyle picks up 14 yards on a fake pass play. Quarterback Jim Chasey then sprints out and throws to Lundquist for another first down. The Big Green's second touchdown came following a beautifully executed punt return play in which Clark Byer scoots for 53 yards after taking a reverse from Malacher. Dave Boyle dives over for the touchdown. Pressure is kept on the Wildcat quarterback by Pete Lawrence and Ernie Babcock. In the second half, the Dartmouth defense shines as Trip Dorkey gets through to the passer. Boyle and Malacher fake into the line, but the ball is given to Lundquist back around left end for 17 yards. Big left end Pete Lawrence continues to harass the New Hampshire quarterback. As the fourth quarter gets underway, Chasey pitches back to Tom Miller, who gets off a fantastic quick kick that goes 66 yards before being downed on the 2. A touchdown drive is then started as Jim Chasey fakes to the left before rolling back and throwing to Jack Wimsatt for 20 yards. Behind fine blocking, Bob Lundquist bursts up the middle, the final 17 yards for the score. Playing in his first college game, quarterback Jim Chasey showed he had equal potential as a runner or as a passer. Another first down is made as Chasey fires a pass out to end Tom Walker. Middle guard Dorkey throws a draw play for a 2-yard loss. On New Hampshire's last play with the ball, defensive end Tom Price drops off to intercept. The Indian subs show a little razzle-dazzle as Bill Kinchner hands off to Tommy Quinn, then takes a cross-field pass for a touchdown. A penalty nullifies the score, but the Big Green has started the season with a fine 21-0 victory over a strong New Hampshire team. Since the Big Green defense did an outstanding job in this game, let's meet some of the defensive unit. Pete Lawrence, a senior from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, has been a starter for 3 years. Big Pete, number 87 at left defensive end, was due for All-Ivy and possible All-American honors, but was forced to miss most of 5 league games with an ankle injury. Lou Maranzana, a junior from Hollywood, Florida, was a regular all season at right defensive end. Bruce Henry, a senior from Gloversville, New York, saw considerable action at both ends. Ernie Babcock, a junior from Milton, Massachusetts, has been elected co-captain for 69 and will lead the defense. Ernie had the knack of sorting out opponents until he came to the one with the ball. Big number 77 is equally effective on plays going away from him, as he has the speed to catch the ball carrier from behind. This is one of several occasions in the Harvard game when Ernie smothered the quarterback for a loss. Other top defensive tackles, Jeff Norton, Albany, New York. And Bill Skibitsky from Hastings, New York. Charles Trip Dorkey, a junior from Ardmore, Pennsylvania, was a real scrapper at defensive middle guard. Rick Lease, a junior from Chesterland, Ohio, was a consistent performer all season at right linebacker. Mike Reeder, a senior from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was also a standout, although he had to miss several games with an injury. Bill Munich, a sophomore from Chesterland, Ohio, shows great potential for the future as a linebacker. Joe Adams, a junior from Muleshoe, Texas, had to miss the Harvard and Yale games, but was a standout the rest of the season at defensive right half. Here's the kid from Muleshoe showing up to spill a wide play for a loss. Joe's all-out effort is shown here as he dives to block a Holy Cross field goal attempt. And he showed the same sort of drive in the Cornell game. Murray Bowden, a sophomore from Snyder, Texas, was one of the hardest hitters on the team, and also came up with some key interceptions, such as this one against Harvard. Rick Wallach, senior from Dixon, Illinois, brother of Captain Randy, has been a standout defensive back for 3 seasons. Russ Adams, a sophomore from New Wilmington, Pennsylvania, earned the starting berth at left defensive half. Sam Faber, senior defensive roverback from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, missed much of the season with a bad leg. Jack Roberts, Jr. from Stevens Point, Wisconsin, is small, but he hits so hard that he often jarred the ball loose from taller receivers. Defensive halfback Pete Donovan, a junior from Chevy Chase, Maryland, one of the league's best place kickers. Dartmouth next traveled to Worcester, Massachusetts to meet the Holy Cross Crusaders in their homecoming game. The Indians used some wide-open plays and formations in an attempt to spread out the huge Holy Cross defenders. The same play goes to the left as Chasey throws to Lundquist for 14 yards. Even when he's off balance, Chasey has the ability to get the pass off, as shown by this toss to Wimsatt. In the second quarter, Chasey gets a touchdown drive started as he throws to right half Bill Donovan. Bob Lundquist rips up the middle all the way to the 9-yard line. And on the following play, Bob Malacher scores. The next time the Indians have the ball, fullback Dave Boyle breaks off tackle for 20 yards, but the half ends with Dartmouth trailing 19-7 in spite of having gained the most yardage. In the third quarter, the Indians get back with a field goal by Pete Donovan. Another drive is started as Jim Chasey throws to Bob Malacher for a first down. Fullback Dave Boyle then hits off tackle for 18 yards. On the next play, Chasey hits Lundquist for 9 yards over the middle. Chasey's next pass is taken by Randy Wallach all the way to the 1-yard line. On the following play, Lundquist dives over for the touchdown. The Indian defense is now aroused, and O'Neill, the Crusader quarterback, is dropped for a loss by Lawrence and Skibitsky. Randy Wallach makes a great diving catch here, but the play is nullified by a penalty. On this Crusader option play, Pete Lawrence gobbles up the quarterback and causes a fumble. Dartmouth keeps up the wide-open attack as Chasey hands off to Boyle, who then flips a lateral out to Malacher. After losing the ball on a fumble, the Indians start to come back again as Chasey throws a sideline pass to Randy Wallach. As the fourth quarter gets underway, Bob Malacher drives off tackle for 8 yards. Up to this point, Dartmouth had dominated the second half, but the complexion of the game suddenly changes when Crusader linebacker Tom Garvin intercepts a Koenig pass for a touchdown. The Indians come back fighting as Chasey throws to Randy Wallach for 18 yards. Koenig comes back in and throws down the left sideline to Bob Malacher for another first down. Koenig then throws a delayed pass to his favorite target, Bob Malacher, but the drive falls short. Still trying on the final play of the game, Malacher takes a swing pass but unfortunately receives a broken ankle that puts him out for the rest of the season. The Indians have received a disappointing 29-17 defeat and have lost some key men that will be missed in the coming weeks. In the years since the official Ivy League started, Princeton has ranked second only to Dartmouth in overall league wins. But in head-to-head encounters, the Indians had beaten the Tigers in 8 of the last 10 games. So Princeton came to Hanover in a mood for revenge. In the first quarter, Scott McBean, one of the 3 fine Princeton tailbacks, is rushed hard by the Dartmouth line when he attempts to pass. But he reacts well and turns the play into a big gain. On the next play, Lease, Munich, Roberts, and Adams all fill in to stop the Tiger fullback. Defensive end Pete Lawrence piles up an off-tackle play, but shortly afterwards receives a severe ankle injury. The Tigers score first when McBean throws a jump pass to Garton. On the succeeding kickoff, Mills, Cordy, Olmsted, Boyle, and Beyer all throw key blocks as little Tommy Quinn returns the kick for 75 yards. The blocking is again devastating on the next play as Clark Beyer covers the remaining distance, and it has taken but 2 plays for Dartmouth to tie the score 7-7. Princeton goes out in front, but in the second quarter, Chasey begins to throw. This one to Wimsatt for 17 yards. Captain Randy Wallach then makes a fine catch, even though he's closely covered. Chasey next picks out Clark Beyer on a pass good for 24 yards. After driving for 73 yards, Chasey's fourth down pass to Lundquist is an inch short of the needed yardage. The Tigers are penalized for piling on, but the foul occurs after the play is over, so Princeton takes over the ball. Now let's take a closer look at this play in slow motion. In the third quarter, Tom Miller gets off a 60-yard quick kick. Fullback Dave Boyle gets downfield to make the tackle on the Tigers' safety man. Playing in his first game, Larry Kilgallen is a standout at defensive middle guard. Kilgallen and Lou Maranzana do a fine job on this play. On the last play of the quarter, Bill Koenig throws a long bomb that is taken by Jack Wimsatt for a 52-yard gain. Darrell Govley then takes a Koenig pass at the 8-yard line. On fourth down, Lundquist smashes into the line, but the 78-yard drive falls inches short. Late in the game, Tom Miller picks up 17 yards, but it's not Dartmouth's day, and the Big Green goes down 34-7 and loses 5 more key men with injuries. It was a rainy day when the Bruins of Brown came to Hanover, and there was some concern how this would affect Dartmouth's relatively light offensive team. Here, Jim Chasey fakes to Lundquist and keeps the ball himself around end for 36 yards. This is the first play of a drive that took only 7 plays to cover the 84 yards needed for a score. After several other good gains, Lundquist then carries the ball around left end and races all the way to the 2-yard line. Clark Beyer drives over left tackle for the touchdown. Watch middle guard Larry Kilgallen on this one. He was named to the weekly All-East for his efforts in this game. When the Indians next have the ball, it takes but 2 plays to score. Clark Beyer follows his blockers around right end for 10 yards. Then the ball is given to Bob Lundquist going to the left. When his path is blocked, Lundquist laterals to Jim Chasey, who scoops up the ball and weaves his way for 63 yards. As he stretches for the goal line, the ball is jarred loose, but Randy Wallach, who had blocked and then followed the play all the way, recovers for the touchdown. The Brown quarterback is dropped on 3 straight plays, and this time it's again Larry Kilgallen who makes the stop. On the first play, when the Indians next have the ball, Chasey starts to the left, then turns back and throws a screen pass to Lundquist. The key block is thrown by John Ritchie, and Lundquist goes 58 yards for the touchdown. With only seconds left in the half, Bill Koenig fakes to John Short, then drives upfield for 15 yards. On the next play, Koenig tosses the ball to Miller, takes a handback, and then fires a strike to Randy Wallach to give the Big Green a 27-0 halftime lead. On the opening play of the second half, Chasey goes back to pass, but runs instead for a gain of 16 yards. The ball is next tossed to Bob Lundquist, and he sprints 31 yards for the touchdown. After only 3 plays in the third quarter, Coach Blackman pulls out his first offensive team for the rest of the day. 2 plays later, Murray Bowden intercepts a Brown pass and returns to the 20. From there, Koenig fakes to Quinn, then throws to Tom Miller in the end zone for a touchdown. When the Indians next have the ball, Koenig throws a key block as sophomore John Short picks up 18 yards. Koenig then fakes a pass before slipping the ball to Short for another good gain. The Dartmouth defense continues to blank Brown. Bruce Saylor picks off this pass and does a little fancy running before being hauled down. Bill Brooks and Bob Cordy open a hole, and John Short shows he can be a tough man to bring down. On the next play, Koenig runs the option and pitches to Short for a gain of 23 yards. The next pitch out goes to Tom Miller, who covers 21 yards for a touchdown that gives the Big Green a 48-0 lead in the third quarter. Bill Kinchner takes over at quarterback, and on his first play gives the ball to Tom Quinn, who rips off 26 yards around end. On the following play, Rich McFadgen tries the other end and goes for 20 yards. Brown's deepest penetration in the second half is stopped when Willie Bogan makes a great diving interception. On the next play, quarterback Mark Heller pitches to Dirk Iacobelli for 23 yards. Quarterback Brad Hauser comes into the game and calls the same play as Iacobelli gains another 22 yards. A 48-0 Dartmouth win, a new Ivy League rushing mark. Let's take time out now to meet some of the offensive unit for Dartmouth. Captain Randy Wallach, senior from Dixon, Illinois, was outstanding in every game all season at right end. Randy was a fine blocker and was also a dangerous pass receiver, as shown on this play against Columbia. Watch Randy Wallach here at right end against Cornell. Randy was one of the finest blockers on the ball club. Jack Wimsett, a junior from Chevy Chase, Maryland, was hampered most of the year with injuries. Darrell Govley, sophomore left end from Albert Lee, Minnesota, was a strong blocker. John Ritchie, junior from Long Beach, California, has been elected co-captain for 1969. Ritchie, number 73 at right tackle, blocked well on all types of pass plays and also had the ability to stay with his block on any running play on his side. Deke Olmsted, senior left tackle from Portland, Oregon. Bob Peters, sophomore from Oglesby, Illinois, started the last 5 games at offensive left tackle. Tim Shadd, junior from Grand Rapids, Michigan, was the regular right guard until being injured in the Yale game. Dave Mills, junior from Muskegon, Michigan, offensive left guard. Jim Wallace, a sophomore from Ludlow, Massachusetts, a standout in the last 3 games. Mark Stevenson, sophomore from Swampscott, Massachusetts, alternated at center with Ed Smith, junior from Kirkville, New York. Dave Boyle, senior from Hendersonville, Tennessee, was the smallest fullback in the Ivy League, but undoubtedly the best open field blocker. Fullback Boyle usually cut his man down with a low body block, as on this play against Cornell. Here's Bob Malacher, junior halfback from Cleveland, Ohio. Clark Beyer, junior from Brookfield, Wisconsin. Tom Quinn, junior halfback from Massapequa, Long Island, always a dangerous punt and kickoff returner. Bob Lundquist, senior right halfback from St. Paul, Minnesota, the 3rd leading scorer in the Ivy League. Tom Miller, punter, junior right halfback from West Allis, Wisconsin. Bill Koenig, junior quarterback from Salem, Oregon, a strong throwing arm, and also the ability to turn upfield and run anytime there was an opening. Jim Chasey, quarterback from San Jose, California, had great poise for a sophomore. Here he is sprinting out and completing a pass to Randy Wallach in the Princeton game. Same game, same type of play, but this time his target, Bob Lundquist. Chasey was especially accurate in his short passes. Watch him hit Bob Malacher here in the Holy Cross game. Bill Kinchner, senior quarterback from Cleveland, Ohio. Although encouraged by the showing against Brown, the Big Green was apprehensive as they traveled to Cambridge for the annual battle against Harvard. 6 first-string men were out with injuries, and 2 others were lost in the first few minutes of play. The game starts well enough as on the first play, Rick Lease shoots through to stop the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage. Early in the game, Bob Lundquist comes close to breaking away as he's tripped up by the safety man after a 17-yard gain. The Dartmouth defensive line put a good rush on the Harvard quarterback on occasions, but on a fourth down play at the start of the second quarter, Harvard's captain Vic Gatto keeps his balance to go in for a touchdown. The Indians made good yardage on the option play as Jim Chasey pitches out to Clark Byer. Chasey then fakes the option and rifles a pass to Randy Wallach for 17 yards. Coming back to the option, Byer takes the pitch, and fullback Dave Boyle's great block springs him free for 14 yards. On the option play in the other direction, Lundquist picks up 22 yards before being knocked out of bounds. Chasey again fakes the option, this time throws to left end Jack Wimsatt, who makes a fine catch. Harvard's quarterback George Lollick makes big yardage for the Crimson by his ability to take off and run when he's rushed. But on the next play, Bob Tufts breaks through to spill him for a 7-yard loss. Bruce Henry, playing for the injured Pete Lawrence, also rushes well as he smothers Lalich for a 15-yard loss. Trailing in the fourth quarter, Dartmouth tries to come back as Bill Koenig throws to Randy Wallach for 30 yards. Ernie Babcock gets through to the passer on occasions, as he's done in every game. Murray Bowden was also a defensive standout as he filled in from his safety position to make tackles. An 80-yard scoring drive starts as Koenig throws to Randy Wallach for 15 yards. Another first down is picked up by Bob Lundquist after taking a quick swing pass. The drive is kept going as Koenig runs the option play well and pitches out to Clark Byer. Another good gain is made on this pass from Koenig to halfback Bill Donovan. Right end Randy Wallach then starts over the middle before breaking back into the corner of the end zone to take a touchdown pass from Bill Koenig. Pete Donovan's extra point is good, but the Big Green goes down to a frustrating 22-7 defeat. When the Big Green traveled to New Haven, there were over 50,000 spectators in the Yale Bowl, and it's estimated that another 8 million people viewed the game on television. The Bulldogs, with their tremendous personnel, were a heavy favorite for this game. On Dartmouth's second play, quarterback Jim Chasey breaks off tackle for 22 yards. Yale's great Calvin Hill, 6'3", 225 pounds, and with a speed and ability to broad jump over 26 feet, was a tough man to stop. Although he is met hard by Murray Bowden, Hill goes in for a touchdown. When his receivers are covered, Bill Koenig carries a round end for a first down. On the next play, Koenig turns upfield on the option and drives for 14 yards. On the first play of the second quarter, Captain Randy Wallach takes a pass from Koenig and rambles for 43 yards before being knocked out of bounds. This 80-yard drive was climaxed as Bob Lundquist plunges over for the touchdown. A few plays later, when Yale quarterback Brian Dowling attempts to pass, it's picked off by Bruce Saylor and returned 43 yards before he's caught from behind by Calvin Hill. It takes only 2 plays to score as Koenig pitches out to Lundquist for the touchdown to make it Yale 14, Dartmouth 13. Although the game is young, the Indians play to win. Trying for a 2-point conversion, Chasey's pass caught out of bounds doesn't count. On the Big Green's next play with the ball, Dave Boyle pops through the middle on a quick trap play and goes for 24 yards before being overhauled. Bill Koenig then fires a pass to Lundquist, good for 17 yards. Koenig next throws a 40-yard pass to Clark Byer. First down on the 7-yard line, but the half ends and Dartmouth loses a good chance for a touchdown. In the third quarter, Calvin Hill is spilled for a loss by Lease, Munich, Roberts, and Rick Wallach. The Dartmouth power sweep looks as powerful as ever as Lundquist goes around end for 14 yards. On the next play, Koenig appears to sprint out to the right, but slips the ball to Clark Byer, who hits back to the left for 21 yards. Byer then takes a pitch out from Koenig and carries all the way to the 8. The long drive was ruined by a second down fumble on the 2. Next time they have the ball, the Indians shake off their frustration as Lundquist takes a pass from Koenig and turns on the speed to go 67 yards for a touchdown. The Indians are now playing inspired ball, and Bruce Henry dumps Calvin Hill for a 7-yard loss. In the fourth quarter, Yale again threatens, but when Brian Dowling tries to scramble, Bruce Henry drops him for a 14-yard loss. It's now 4th and 17. It appears the Yale threat is stopped, but Dowling gets off a pass to end Lou Roney for the touchdown. Again, the Indians are frustrated, but again they come back fighting. Clark Beyer takes the Yale punt and hands off to Tommy Quinn, who picks up a wall of blockers and rambles 84 yards for a touchdown. Jim Chasey goes in for a 2-point conversion to again keep the game within reach. When Yale captain Brian Dowling again attempts the scrambling tactics he's famous for, he's dropped for a 15-yard loss by Bob Tufts. With a 4th down and 1 second left in the game, Yale completes another touchdown pass to win 47-27, but the fighting spirit of Dartmouth was greatly admired by everyone who saw the game. It was Fall House Parties weekend on the Dartmouth campus when Columbia came to Hanover, paced by their 6'5", 215-pound quarterback Marty Darmus, who for 2 years had ranked among the leading passers in the nation. The first completion of the game, however, comes on a pass from Dartmouth's Bill Koenig to Randy Wallach. The first Indian drive was slowed up on the 11th, so Pete Donovan comes on to kick a field goal and gives Dartmouth a 3-0 lead. Note crushing blocks thrown here by left half Clark Beyer, fullback Dave Boyle, and guard Jim Wallace. Dartmouth limited Columbia to only 80 yards rushing for the day in spite of using a 4-man line in order to have an extra defensive back in the game. Darmus can't find a receiver open and is thrown for a 13-yard loss by Maranzana and Lawrence. A 76-yard scoring drive is started as Beyer receives fine blocks from Ritchie, Wallach, Lundquist, Boyle, and Mills. Koenig then steps up in the pocket and fires a pass to Randy Wallach for 18 yards. A fake to Lundquist then fools the Columbia defense, and Beyer picks up 17 yards after taking Koenig's pitch around end. Lundquist covers the final yards of this drive as he goes in for the score. When Marty Darmus again attempts to pass, defensive back Russ Adams streaks in to intercept, and he's off for a touchdown. The Indian offense continues to fool the Lions as Koenig fakes to Lundquist before pitching out to Beyer for 26. Fullback Dave Boyle obliterates the Columbia cornerback as Lundquist utilizes the blocking to go for 16 yards. Watch the hole open as Bob Peters' trap block springs Beyer into the open. The Indians' deception continues to fool the Lions as Chasey fakes to Beyer, then keeps the ball himself around end. Koenig comes in at quarterback and drills a pass down the middle to Randy Wallach for another 1st down. Bob Lundquist keeps the drive going by ripping up the middle for 12 yards. Quarterback Jim Chasey fakes to Lundquist and covers the final 25 yards for the touchdown himself. The Dartmouth secondary continues to do such an effective job that Marty Darmus has no one to throw to, and in the first half he gained only 24 yards passing. In the third quarter, Darmus doesn't have much more success, as his few completions are for short yardage. The deepest threat in this quarter is stopped as Rick Wallach tips the ball and Russ Adams intercepts in the end zone. The Dartmouth line rips gaping holes in the Columbia defense as Lundquist powers up the middle for 18 yards. One of the few occasions when the Big Green had to punt in this game, the offensive team shows the type of coverage that prevented any long returns being made against them all season. At the start of the fourth quarter, quarterback Bill Koenig changed the play at the line of scrimmage and then faked to Lundquist before taking off around end for 54 yards. On the next play, Lundquist smashes up the middle for 10 more. Dave Boyle then drives in for the touchdown to give Dartmouth a 31-0 lead. Although thrown on this play, Marty Darmus was able to complete enough passes in the closing minutes to bring the final score to a more respectable 31-19. This would be a good time to meet the Dartmouth coaching staff. Here's head coach Bob Blackman on the terrace of his home overlooking the Dartmouth golf course. He's had 13 winning seasons at Dartmouth, and his teams have won more championships than any other Ivy school. Working with the Dartmouth offense are line coach Quentin Curry and backfield coach Charlie Harding. The varsity defensive staff consists of Jake Krauthamel, defensive backfield coach, John Peter Kuski, interior line coach, and Bob Cassiola, linebacker and end coach. The freshman football staff consists of head freshman coach John Curtis, along with George Darlington, Skip Small, and Walt Pierce. In the next to the last game of the season, the Big Green traveled to Ithaca to meet Cornell on their house party weekend. It was a wet, muddy field which supposedly should favor the much heavier Cornell team, but the Indians were ready for this one. The first Cornell punt of the game is taken by Tommy Quinn, who then reverses the ball to Clark Beyer. The blocking forms, and the return is good for 27 yards. Watch fullback Dave Boyle's block as Clark Beyer takes a lateral from Koenig for 25 yards. Running from a double slot formation on the next play, Lundquist takes a toss from Koenig, then laterals back to Koenig on a play good for another 31 yards. 2 plays later, Koenig keeps himself and goes in for the opening touchdown after only 6 minutes of play. Cornell attempts a wide play, Joe Adams slows up the ball carrier, and then Ernie Babcock makes the tackle. On the following play, Lou Maranzana smashes in to drop Robertson of Cornell for a 6-yard loss. Early in the second quarter, the Indians make an 80-yard march. One of the big plays was this pass from Jim Chasey to Dave Boyle. The sloppy going doesn't prevent the Indians from having a little fun with their wide-open tactics as Lundquist tosses a lateral back to Chasey. On the next play, the light Dartmouth line rolls the big Cornell forward wall back as Clark Beyer picks his way up the middle for 14 yards. Lundquist carries to within a foot of the goal, and on the following play, Chasey went over to give Dartmouth a 13-0 lead. Pete Lawrence, who had been out with an ankle injury since the first quarter of the Princeton game, shows why he's considered one of the best defensive ends in the East when he's healthy. After intercepting, he covers 72 yards. And how did you like that straight arm? Pete is mobbed by his teammates as he returns to the bench, and the Dartmouth stands show their approval. Bill Arthur, the Cornell quarterback, tries right end on this play, and tackle Ernie Babcock reacts out to really jolt him. As the third quarter gets underway, Arthur tries the same play, and this time Russ Adams, Murray Bowden, and Bill Munich make the tackle. Koenig fakes to Lundquist and pitches out to Beyer on a play good for 14 yards. The Dartmouth defense continues to play inspired ball as Lou Maranzana and Joe Adams spill this play. Watch the relentless rush of Ernie Babcock as he sheds blockers and gets through to jar the Cornell quarterback loose from the ball. Let's take another look at Ernie as he wades through the blockers to cause a bad pass. Only a slippery ball prevents an interception. Beyer keeps his footing as he plows up the middle for a first down. Ritchie, Wallace, and Boyle open a hole as Beyer goes for another 10 yards. Quinn and Short come in the game at halfbacks, but Chasey keeps the ball himself to cover the last 38 yards of the Big Green's second 80-yard touchdown drive of the day. Sophomore defensive tackles Bill Skibitsky and Mike Brooks continue to put the rush on the Cornell quarterback. On the last play of the game, Bill Koenig picks up 24 yards, and Dartmouth finishes with a 27-6 victory. Coach Blackman's teams have now beaten Cornell in 12 out of 14 attempts. Several of the Dartmouth players received line burns from the design on the Cornell field and were unable to play in the final game of the season as Dartmouth traveled to Philadelphia. It is Band Day. There are over 50,000 people in huge Franklin Field. A win would give Dartmouth a third-place finish in the Ivy League and preserve their record of being the only team that has never finished out of the upper division since the league started. The Indians start strong as on the first play, Clark Beyer receives great blocking and goes around end for 32 yards. Again, the line blocks well as Lundquist smashes off tackle for 8 yards. Koenig then fakes to Beyer and keeps himself for another 8. Bill Koenig keeps this opening drive going as he sprints left and throws to Clark Beyer for 19 yards. Beyer then carries on an end sweep to go in for the touchdown. Pete Donovan converts. It's a 7-0 Dartmouth lead. Second quarter now, Jeff Norton breaks through to stop a Penn option play. As the Dartmouth backfield fakes to the right, Chasey throws to Beyer, crossing back to the left. Penn attempts something similar, but Joe Adams cuts in to intercept the ball and returns for 23 yards. Jim Chartrand, playing in the place of the injured Dave Boyle, smashes in for the touchdown. Middle guard Trip Dorkey throws the Penn passer for a loss, but this is a hard-fought ball game, and the Indians miss some of their injured players. The half ends with a score tied 14-14. The Quakers dominate the third quarter to move in front 24-14, but late in the quarter, Dartmouth starts a 75-yard drive as John Ritchie's trap block opens a big hole for Lundquist. As the final quarter of the season starts, Koenig carries on an option for 9 yards. Koenig then executes perfectly as he fakes to Beyer and turns upfield before lateraling out to John Short. Running the same play back to the right, quarterback Koenig carries for another 9 yards. As the backs fake left, Koenig rolls to the right and throws to Wimsatt for a first down on the 11-yard line. After having covered 75 yards, the next play is disastrous to the Indians. John Brown of Penn intercepts and returns out to midfield. This is a Dartmouth team that never quits, however, and they drive for a touchdown the next time they have the ball. Captain Randy Wallach covers 21 yards after taking this pass from Koenig. Koenig then comes back to the option and picks up 9 yards. On the following play, Koenig bootlegs to the right and throws to Wimsatt for 20 more yards. Bob Lundquist then sweeps around in, and on 4 consecutive plays, the Indians have covered 64 yards. Clark Beyer drives in for the touchdown, and Pete Donovan's extra point brings the score up to 21-26. The Indians now have the momentum, and in spite of all their injuries and frustrations, it appears they're still going to come back to make it a winning season. On Penn's next attempt with the ball, Santini, their ace runner, is dropped for a loss. The Quakers are held for downs and forced to punt, and Dartmouth is ready to roll. Beyer is hit as he attempts to reverse to Quinn, however, and Penn recovers the fumble. Again, the Indians hold for downs, but now time is running out. On first down, Koenig takes a handback from Lundquist and fires a pass to Randy Wallach, good for 58 yards. Dartmouth has one last chance, but Koenig's pass is off Lundquist's fingertips, and it's a disappointing end to a frustrating season. After the game, the Dartmouth fans stand to join the band. They're proud of the Big Green's great winning tradition, and they're already looking forward to next season.